Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. We are talking about the Nikon Z8 mirrorless camera, new camera within the mirrorless line for Nikon. My name is Mike Corrado. I've got a very special segment here where I'm talking to an amazing portrait photographer, but I kind of want to say his work is surrealistic fashion. It's exciting, it's colorful. We have him here today, Malike Sidibe. Malik, welcome.
Thank you. That was a nice introduction.
Well, I try. You and I have known each other for quite a while, and I'm so thankful for you to be here. We're going to talk about the project you've done with the Z8. Certainly, you bring some great energy and creative to the projects that you've done for us and the work that I've seen you do. I feel like I want to mention how we've known each other since you first really broke into being a professional, and we've worked together for many years, and I'm really thankful that you're here with us today. So,
Definitely, me too.
I don't want to do you an injustice by describing who you are, so for the people out there that are meeting Malik for the first time, let everybody know, what is Malike Sidibe, and who are you, and what is your photography like?
Well, there's not really much to know. My name is Malike Sidibe, and I was born in West Africa, and I grew up in Guinea, and I've been living in the States for about 13 years, and I've been doing photography, now I could officially say for 10 years, which sounds insane, but, yeah, it's just been really, really fun. The way I kind of got into photography is really interesting because I'm really into fashion, and at first I was really interested into menswear design, and then I started learning how to make clothes, and I realized I don't have fun really doing that. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll be a stylist. And then I was like, I need to build a portfolio. And I didn't know any photographers out there. So I picked up a camera and started photographing my subjects myself. Then I realized I was having way more fun with the camera than I did styling or making clothes. And next thing I knew, 3 years passed by, I'm a photographer and I'm doing it for a living. So I'm pretty grateful for how that kind of came about. And, but yeah. I'm specialized in fashion, portraiture, and commercial, and as well as documentary.
We're going to dig into your shoot, how you put it all together, the creative behind it, where you're inspired, all of that. Definitely delve into the Z8 and how you used it, some of the settings, controls, and what you thought of the camera, first impressions and lasting impressions after the shoot was over. But in order to give people a good, I may maybe start here.
Yeah.
For the shoot that you've done, we've got a really cool BTS, a behind-the-scenes video that you produced. As long as you were out there with the stills, you put it all together, and I think it's really interesting for people to see. So let's roll Malik's BTS.
Hello, my name is Malike Sidibe. I am a New York City-based photographer. When Nikon reached out to me about working with the Z8, I was super excited and couldn't wait to see what it could do. My work is very dreamlike and colorful, full of movement, so I wanted to kind of test to see how far I could push this camera. For this shoot, I wanted to create a colorful fashion shoot. I had my models jumping in the air with a very colorful background and an amazing makeup. I was working with the 85mm 1.2 Z lens and the 24 to 70mm Z lens as well. One of the things I love about this camera is its focus system. I believe it has the best focus mechanism in history. The camera was able to capture my models flowing in the air, and the eyes and the images were super sharp. The colors that come out of this camera is very beautiful. The skin tone of my subjects looked amazing and very smooth. After doing a whole shoot with this camera, I could confidently say that it is one of the best cameras I've ever worked with. I love how the display just flips out and turns every which way, which is very helpful, especially working in studio. And I believe every photographer is gonna have a great time with it, no doubt.
I always love behind-the-scenes videos because they give anybody that wasn't there a really great view of what you were doing and how it all came together, and certainly the way you describe it is amazing. So I want to take you back to that first moment, though, when we give you this assignment and we put the Z8 in your hands for the very first time. Yeah. What are some of your first impressions?
Well, my first impression was like it felt very familiar. I've been shooting with the DA50 for about the last 7 years, and the first impression I had was like, this feels like I'm holding the DA50. And after using the Z9 for the last few months, I knew exactly. I was like, okay, cool, this is gonna be my new favorite camera, because that already kind of sold me on it, because I love my DA50 and I've been shooting with it forever since I got my hands on it, and it's literally like my baby. And yeah, so that was my first research, and then I couldn't wait to actually take it into the studio and actually work with it and see what I could actually do with this. And because you guys talked about what he does and how it's very familiar with the Z9 and everything, so I was like, okay, cool. Like, I just need to test it out to see. So that was like my first impression off the bat. So
Yeah, and we'll get more into the specifications later on. But I want to give people insight to the creative. There were some things said in the BTS, but really, how does this all start to come together? You know, people have given me assignments before. I can't imagine the surrealistic approach you take and the color and all of that stuff that you're thinking about. Where does it start? How does it start?
well, for this assignment specifically, I kind of like I didn't really put together a specific storyline. All I knew is that like I was like, I want to play around with this camera. Like my work is very surrealistic, as you said. It's full of movements and colors, and I wanted to kind of create images that kind of portray that. And some of my images are very dark tone, and some of them are bright. And so for this assignment specifically, I was like, I want a lot of colors, I want a lot of movement. So I started kind of drawing down some ideas, and I have an amazing team of people that I work with, the hairstylist and the makeup artist and the set designer, and even down to the producer. I have people that I've known for a really long time, and I was like, okay, like they're the one that I'm gonna go to kind of put these ideas together. So I started drawing down some ideas, sharing it with the people I wanted to work with, and kind of getting some of their ideas, and then we put this amazing look together with like the colorful background and the colorful sets and the colorful outfits and amazing detailed makeup and hairstyling. It was amazing. So it's kind of how it kind of came about, and the goal was just to kind of create beautiful images that showcase my style of work and what I love to do. And I think I did just that, you know.
When you're putting this all together and looking at the camera, are you thinking about the lenses that you're going to use on the shoot as well?
I'm not really a technical person, so that all of that kind of comes on later. I always have the lenses that I'm always using, which is like the 20-40-70. That's my first lens that I always make sure I have in my backpack, and the 85 millimeter. And I got to play around with the 85 1.2, which was actually beautiful. And as well as the 105, because I love kind of getting close up and in the face of my models and kind of capturing those beautiful close-up images. And sometimes I like to pull back and kind of capture the whole scenery. And yeah, those are like the lenses that I had, and I kept switching them based on where I see fit.
Yeah, I'm still amazed.
Yeah.
Not surprised, but blown away is probably a better way to put it, that there's not a Z lens that I picked up in the line that isn't sharp edge to edge. Yeah. And there's that crispness to the files, and then you bring up something that's really new to the Z line, the 85 1.2. Yep. That's going to replace my portrait lens now moving forward.
Yeah.
So when you're putting this all together, you say you got this great team. Where in the concept, I mean, how are you achieving that surrealism?
I mean, I feel like it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you have this idea of this image in your head, and you kind of want to figure out how to make it work. And the way I work is not really traditional. Or sometimes if you come into my set, you see a lot of things going on that will leave you like, what the heck is going on? But it's just kind of like interacting with your subject. And it's like, I feel like it's this never ending race to kind of like creating this idea you have in your head. Honestly, like I feel like that's the best way I could put it, where it's like I have this image in my head, I'm gonna do what I need to do on set to kind of get it as close to that, and then the rest I'll figure out editing. So it was a team effort with like my assistant directing them, like setting up the lightings and everything. And I feel like the big part I kind of bring the surrealism together is also comes down to the makeup and the styling, because you kind of have to, I feel like that's a big part of it, honestly, like with everything else, but you're just kind of collaborating on that little aspect, and then just pushing as far as you can, honestly. There's not really a way for me to describe how to get the surreal look. It's just kind of chasing that image in your head and finding ways to make that happen. And sometimes it's not necessarily the traditional way. And I feel like this camera gave me enough freedom to be able to do that, because for once, like, the size of it and like the weight of it is kind of very light. So like usually I'm on set, I'm shooting, and I'm like tired without even knowing that my hands is tired and I can't wait to get out of here. Whereas like with this one, I was kind of like just shooting and wasn't really thinking so much about the camera, but things like I had enough time to focus on my subject and the vision I wanted to bring out. That's how much freedom the camera gave me, and I feel like that's one of the main thing that I love about it. But that's pretty much kind of how
I was going to say, you work fast and furious on this assignment, and that's one of those things that impresses me because your energy levels have to be high, but you bring up a big factor, and especially when I'm out photographing wildlife, the weight of the camera becomes a factor after several hours and carrying long lenses, and that's why great things come in small packages, and I think that's what this camera really represents. Is there's so much built in to just this really beautiful, small, lightweight, compact body. And it's, I think, what a lot of people are looking for. And when you brought up the D850 before, I think that's very key because there are a lot of people that have really not jumped into mirrorless because they love their D850. I mean, we were talking before. I have to pry the D850 out of your hands. You know, and I think you will air your D850 right to me when you're done with it because of our relationship, and I want that camera. I think this is going to speak to a lot of people who are saying, well, you know, I've loved my D850, now it's time for me to move on to mirrorless. And I think for every reason you've already explained, I mean, just what you can do. We talk about the high megapixel count, we talk about the focus modes. I know you just mentioned how you don't want this to get in the way of what you're trying to do, but talk about how the features of the camera and the specs, I mean, what do you think of them?
I mean, I feel like it's one of those things, like once you learn what he does and it almost become part of you, you know? Like I have a lot of friends that make music and sometimes I watch them work where it's like they're not thinking so much about what they're saying because it's all in one, like they become one with the music. And I honestly feel like with this camera, that's how I feel, like, you know, to the little details of like where you could just kind of lift up this thing right here and look at it from a different perspective. And sometimes you want to get really close to your subjects and you don't want to kind of be all over. So it kind of gives you like this freedom and this little thing where also one of the things that I use is kind of like customizing the buttons as well to what you want it to do. But yeah, it's just like all this amazing features with it that just kind of make you one with the camera, where it's like once you learn what they do and once you teach your hands how to remember them, it becomes muscle memory and it feels like the camera is not even there. You're just kind of following your instinct with the camera in your hand. And that's kind of how it became for me. And one of the things I really, really loved so much is like the 3D tracking on this one. It literally blew me away when I was shooting because we tested out when we came to the office and saw and everything. But as I was shooting, especially like my images, you see some of my models are jumping in the air. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like the focus literally tracked them every single way as they jump and go down. And sometimes they'll look away. As soon as they look back, it catches their eye. And you know, the way I work, most of the time you're shooting, it's either a little bit blurry or something like that. Whereas like this one, as soon as I said it and my hands was on that, and like I kept asking my Digitech, I was like, how's the focus? He's like, great, great. And I kept asking him throughout the whole shoot. He's like, dude, they're great. Don't worry about it, because that's how great it was and how fast it was and amazing it was at doing that. So that was really great, you know.
Does that give you confidence? I mean, that to me, to have the confidence, like you said before, let me not think about this. Let me think about what's.
No, it gives you a lot of confidence and also makes you look good in front of your clients. You know, like it makes you look good. It's like as you know, like I know what I'm doing when I'm in studio. I know how to use my camera, but I'm not a big technical person. I leave that to my Digitech. But with this camera being on set, it makes me look like I know every single thing about it. You know?
But now you understand why you're sitting here next to me, because you make me look good. That's the only reason why they have me here, is just to deliver some. You make me look good. So thank you for that. I find it interesting. You mentioned D850, but how Z9 really does play into this because of what we call muscle memory, right? And so I wasn't on your particular shoot. I was covering other shoots, but how quick and easy was it to just pick up this camera, like you've said sort of before, and just roll right into it?
It was definitely very quick, because like I got a Z9 that I've been using for the last few months, so I had knowledge from that, and I knew the features, which it's very similar to this one, and being used to the DA50 for the last 7 years, it just felt like the perfect camera that I never knew that I wanted, so like I got it, I felt a little guilty even thinking about. I'm like, oh, I want to get rid of my DA50. I might keep it just to have it because
No, you're giving it to me. We discussed this already. Don't go back on it now. We're out there, okay? Get it out there. Say, Mike, I'm going to give you my D850.
But it's like it's so funny
You're
because
not committing, are you?
no, I'm not. I don't think I'm ready to give it up yet. But it's like, I've used like the Z6 II and I've used the Z7, and all of those cameras are great, and I've shot some amazing stuff with it. But it was like, I was like, I'm not ready to fully transition to a mirrorless yet, And then I had the Z, and I was like, like this is like great, like I love this
Now
camera.
it's time.
And now this is like, the perfect camera that just kind of blends everything in together, and also very sharp. The power in this is very advanced compared to the DA50. Like my the tracking thing I was telling you about is like. It was my first time being able to experience something as fast as this one. So
yeah, I want to mention that too. You said
yeah.
3D tracking, because to people out there, what 3D tracking is you select the sensor where it starts, and then it's going to track the subject that you've locked in on, and around the frame, and then beyond that in autofocus, having scene detection, automatic scene detection, or locking it in on focusing on a person's eyes. I can't imagine that's not important to you either. And then all kinds of different modes for different situations, which gives you a lot of versatility in the body. But most people who photograph portraits or those that are out there tend to think, oh, I only will photograph one frame at a time. How important is it to have the fast frame rates? And are you taking it? You talk about jumping subjects.
Yeah, it's so fun. Even
20 frames a second may come in very handy.
Yeah, no, totally. Even though I had like my subjects jumping, I didn't put it into like the burst mode.
So you went one frame at a time?
I was going one frame at a time.
So you're far better than I even thought.
No, like I don't know. I feel like I get very anxious using the burst because I'm like, I don't want to shoot and then the memory card runs out, So I always keep it on a single shot, and I just kind of shoot as fast as I can. And like, with the work that I do, I try to be very intentional with my shots. And it's like, even though I was shooting when they were jumping, it was like there's always those one moments that you want to see and capture that, and then move on to the next one. But kind of following, the reason I was also able to follow them jumping is because I was giving myself that that time to look to the camera and watch the 3D tracking go from below to like up, as they were going. So it's definitely, it's amazing, honestly. It's just amazing.
I love that approach because that's very unique. I mean, I would think a lot of people, and we've talked to other fashion and portrait people, how as the subject moves, they like the extra frame rate because they're looking for that moment in between. But that intentional approach is very courageous, and but it does make you think, right? And that one frame at a time, there's a mastery in there, and that's why I appreciate the work that you're doing. Anything else in the camera that stands out to you?
Honestly, the colors, like working with the raw files that come out of this is amazing. Like it was literally awesome. Like, I mean, you guys will get to see the images. Like you could let me know what you think. But yeah, like, I don't know, like there's like, I feel like I could talk about everything,
There's so much to this, and the beauty of this, when you look back to the fundamentals, f-stop, shutter speeds, action control. And I want to tap in a little bit to the lighting. Are you using strobe light, steady light,
I work
continuous
mostly
light?
with strobe lights. I work mostly with strobe light. Recently, I've started experimenting with continuous light, but most of my strobe lights are like.
So that timing is at one frame at a time.
Definitely.
And I think that's kind of forced because of the strobes.
Definitely. I mean, you kind of have to make sure you don't blow up your lights as well. So yeah, definitely strobe lights is my go-to.
So I want to tap on something. You just opened the doors too. You get things going, the shoot is rolling, you're gaining your confidence, as you said. You stop worrying a little bit about everything because your tech is telling you everything's coming out great. But now you're starting to look into the files yourself. Talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the way of quality and the color. And
when I uploaded these files into my computer, it was one of those things. I was like, maybe I don't really need to do anything into these images, They were so vibrant, and like, I had dark skinned models, and their skin was just glowing and super smooth, and like the colors were just very rich, where it's like, my work is very like abstract sometimes, and I didn't feel the need to do anything crazy to the images. I kind of did like some color toning and then put certain things around, but like I didn't really need to do much like I usually do with my work. So the files are amazing, and it's like you get all the details out of everything, and you have a lot of information in there that you could play around with. And but yeah, it was just great, you know.
When it comes to the business side of your world, because you're in business, right? I mean, and you look at your camera line and the accessories and things that you have to buy, how important do you think it is for people to know that if you come from D850 or Z62, Z72, as you have said, that the battery form factor is exactly the same?
Yeah.
You know, the card slots, you know, CF Express and that ability to use CF Express and SD is there. How important is that to you from a business standpoint?
I feel like it's very important because it's like, you know, it's like having another DA50, and it saves you a lot of money, you know. And honestly, since I got the DA50, I never had to buy a new battery. Like, I've never bought an extra battery. I don't remember going into a store and trying to buy a new battery. So transitioning from that to this is just, you know, you have everything you need, you know, and you're going to save so much money that you could use towards your business. And not only that, it's like upgrading to a newer car, you know, and it would give you a lot more things that you didn't have in your previous camera, but also there are certain things that you could bring in, like the CF cards and the batteries that you could bring into this. So I think it's very important, you know.
Yeah, I know you love the form factor the way it is. For me, there's a battery pack for it as well, so I love the fact that I can go small. I can go larger when I'm using a 600 millimeter. I can't imagine you bring many 600 millimeters on a portrait set. But you know, I just love the versatility of this camera, and I think you've expressed that so well. No, I think your work is truly inspirational. I know you've got a long way to go.
Thank you.
And we can't thank you enough for giving us your time.
Definitely. Thank you so much, man. And definitely adding on to that, like, I feel like one of the things that, you know, like I genuinely am in love with this camera. So I feel like one of the things that you said is, you know, if you've used a DA50 in the past, this would literally be the camera for you. And it's literally the camera that I never knew that I needed it until I got it, you know what I mean? And, but yeah, I feel like the only way to find out, honestly, is just, you know, go to a camera store and try it out yourself. You'll see what I'm really talking about, you know. But yeah, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for being a continuous support in my photography career.
Well, thank you for sharing everything, and thank you guys for tuning in. You can learn so much more about the Z8 on Nikon's website and social channels. Check out Malik's stills if you have not seen them, but you've seen some of it here right now. And again, thank you guys all for tuning in. We'll see you soon.
Ready, action.